Paul, the MMA Shark, coming at you. We're going to talk a little bit about UFC Fight Night 60 results, what I saw coming, what I didn't see coming, and then going to do a little preview for Dana White Contender Series Week 9. I am the MMA Shark. We are up over 340 units this year. www.themmashark.com. You don't even have to sign up to get some plays for tomorrow night's Dana White's Contender Series because I'm going to drop some free plays right here today. So, what a wild fight night that was on Saturday night. UFC Fight Night 60 Vegas lived up to the hype and then some. At the end of the day, a doctor decided if we were winning or losing on a fight. Let me tell you a little bit about what I saw coming and a little bit about what I didn't see coming. First off, fight of the night, I had Nicholas Moda to win. I had under 2.5 rounds. So both cashed with ease as Moda got the knockout in the first round. The second fight, I had Javid Basharat. Couldn't fade the Basharat brothers after Fareeb's fight on last Tuesday. I was here, I gave a free play. He cashed. The Basharats now cashed 2 tickets for us last week. Tony Gradley's as tough as it gets. But Javid's just a step ahead. We got that one right. Fight 3. I was out here. I gave a free play. I told you guys, Jillian Robertson is the play. It didn't come as easy as I expected. You know, she ate a lot of elbows in the first round, trying to clinch, just getting teed off. There was one part where Daniel Cormier even said they're going to stop it. And I knew she wasn't hurt at the time, but she just had to get that fight to the ground and have her way. And Jillian Robertson with the second round rear naked choke. It probably should have been stopped 30 minutes prior to when it did, but that's where that one went. I passed on fight 4. It would have been nice to sprinkle the dog there, but I passed on it. Pat Sabatini, what a surprise that was. I thought Pat Sabatini was going to be way more dangerous in that fight. I totally get it, though. You know, when your opponent's fighting after a tragic death in the family like that, props to Jackson. You know, he came out and fought with a lot of heart and put away Pat Sabatini. That doesn't happen often. He's been submitted once and never been knocked out until that fight, and he could not survive from that kick. So even though I lost money on the play, we lost money on the play, I felt happy for Jackson and his whole family there, and man, I probably should have saw that one coming, honestly. But, you know, we were still cruising at that point. I had Marc-Andre Barriault. That was a horrible choice on my end. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, he's tough as nails. Like, he's hard to finish, and I just figured he was going to have a speed and strength advantage over Hernandez, and that didn't pan out. But then we turned things around and cruised. Dana White, Joe Pyfer. We were Joe Pyfer. We were on the side of that. We had Joe Pyfer by knockout. That's the only possible way that fight was ending. We had to lay 180 to get it, 165 to 180, but we weren't afraid. So we had Joe Pyfer to win by knockout. Man, what Dana did for him, putting him up in a house, and, you know, Pennsylvania roots. I've known Joe since his first amateur fight, actually. He knocked the guy out so cold that the ambulance had to come in. I was there. They were giving him oxygen in the cage, and you know, I said in my previous video, he's got concrete in his hands. Was he a little too favored in that fight? Yeah. I mean, from a gambling perspective, there was no way to lay minus 460 to someone who's fighting on short notice on the main card in their UFC debut. So we took the smart route and went Joe Pyfer to win by knockout, TKO, KO, inside distance. And sure enough, he cashed. Main event play, you know, everybody was 50-50 on that. We were on Sandhagen, and we were on Sandhagen big. I released Sandhagen as a 5-unit play. He was minus 200 at the time, so it paid 2.5 units. But the beauty of the main event, I released a full 2-unit play on Sandhagen to win by TKO or KO. And everyone's thinking, there's no way that's going to happen. It's plus 375. If anyone's getting the knockout, it was Yadong. But I see things. This is what has gotten me to where I'm at. This is where I'm coming up on 500 subscribers. I figured Sandhagen was going to get some kind of sneaky shot in there, whether it was a paralyzing leg kick or a crafty elbow. Yadong hits harder, but Sandhagen was just such a better fighter. We knew that going in. So he clipped him. That cut was never going to survive round 5. If that doctor, I get it. The doctor let RoboCop continue, and it showed out that it was the right decision versus Sheedy. I don't know how he survived that fight, but he survived it, and then did damage in the second round and ended up getting the ground and pound KO. A lot of times when I take an underdog, if they get destroyed in the first round, what did that fighter leave out in the cage that won that first round by that much? And a lot of times they expel all their energy, and I almost sensed that going to round 2, when they let RoboCop continue, that Sheedy was in trouble. Last week, we had Trevin Peak in Dana White Contender Series as a huge underdog play. I went 3 units at plus 180. He got killed in the first round, but he had enough left in the second round that he didn't empty the gas tank, and he got the knockout finish. So I think that Sandhagen is just smart enough to do what he's got to do to win fights, and that late TKO is expected, as Song Yadong typically fades in fights. He's a young kid, he's a good kid, he's a promising fighter, but he's just not on the level of Sandhagen. So that was my recap. It was an up and down night. It started very strong. The middle part of the card was not strong, and then the card finished strong. So still way up in the month in September. So of course, everyone's waiting. Dana White Contender Series. There's only 2 left. I have been absolutely smoking them. The last 5 Contender Series weeks, we have profited. I think tomorrow is a pretty well-matched card, and I definitely see some live dogs that I'm going with. So some late last-minute replacements, which we know don't fare off too well on Contender Series. And, of course, I'm not going to give away the whole card. If you want the whole card, sign up using code BANANAS50 to save 50% off your first 30 days at the MMA Shark. Again, I handicap all UFC prelims, Bellator, PFL, Dana White Contender Series, Invicta, LFA, Cage Warriors, Major Boxing. It's all included in the package. The results speak for themselves. Go to the website, www.themmashark.com. Click on the results tab. Click on the schedule tab. You'll see everything you're going to get. All plays are texted directly out to you. There's really no close second when it comes to this. It's not a get rich or go broke on one card thing. Give it 3 months. See where you're at the end of 3 months. And the answer to that's going to be up. I've had 1 losing month since last August. And consequently, it was August of this year. So August hasn't been good. Every other week and month has been great. We have losing cards, but in the big run, we don't lose. So Contender Series tomorrow, Dana White Contender Series Week 9, which is very sad because it really gives us something to do on Tuesday nights. 6-2 going into Week 9. Last year I finished 8-2, so if I can win the next 2 cards, have a plus in front of our unit number the next 2 weeks, I could be at that same 80% I was last year. So we're 6-2 going in. Week 1 was a loser. Week 3 was a loser. Otherwise, there has not been a loser. Taking a look at some of these fights tomorrow night. Fight 1, you got Hoibert, Echevera versus Filho. The weird thing about this fight is Yafel is minus 175. He's 13-2. He's fought a ton of quality competition, whereas Hoibert has barely fought anyone. All tin cans. He fought a 2-17. He fought a debut. But at the end of the day, he's 7-0, training out of Florida. He's a very live dog in this fight. He's nasty, sleek submissions. There's not a whole lot of film on this kid. Jafel, I've seen him, 13-2. 3 of the fights, he was getting the shit kicked out of him on, and he was able to just either squeak by with a decision or a crafty submission, like something lucky off his back at the end. He's more of a 10-5 fighter, the way I see it. To back an underdog that's really not been tested is very tough. But I see stuff in video, and there's a lot I see with Hoibert that actually makes me think not only does he win that fight as a plus 150 tomorrow, I truly believe he gets a contract. So fight 1, I'm going with Hoibert Echevera, and I'm leaning toward a submission win, as crazy as that sounds. Fight 2, I think we have the biggest prospect of the card on Fight 2. And for some reason, I'm thinking nobody in Fight 2 gets a contract. Josh Wick took this fight on very short notice. I think he signed this contract 13 days ago. He's a really tough kid. He's coming in at plus 460 right now, which makes sense and doesn't make sense. Josh has really good striking, but he's more known for his grappling and submission attempts, his jiu-jitsu. But he's fighting a guy in Nuriello Aliyev who, I hate to compare a 6-0 fighter to Khabib Nurmagomedov, but he's almost at that level where Khabib was when he was 6-0 in his career. There is zero path to victory for Josh Wick in this fight. Even if, and I'm stressing even if he catches Nuriello in somewhat of a submission, because he may. I'm not saying he's not going to grab a leg or an arm or, do something crafty and sneaky to make this fight look close. Nuriello is going to have an answer for it. And I think that, and I hope the UFC and Dana White in particularly watches this fight close enough to see how good Aliyev is. I'm thinking it's probably going to be a decision. Safe lean is over 1.5, possibly over 2.5. Those lines aren't even out yet. No one actually saw prop lines or round totals yet. But there's no way Aliyev loses this fight, and you can quote me on it. Wick's coming in tough. He's crafty. He's just not going to have an answer. I don't care if you give the kid 8 weeks to prepare. It's just not even close to the same level. Like I said, Aliyev's going to win the fight and possibly not get a contract because he might just lay on him and grind out a decision win. Probably not what his mindset is. Maybe he does get a finish. Maybe he gets a ground and pound TKO. But, I see no path to victory there for Josh Wick. But good on him for taking the fight on 2 weeks' notice. Fight 3, we switched to the heavyweights. You got Austin Lane taking on Richard Jacoby. Jacoby is 6-0-1 with 5 knockout wins and 1 submission win. And Austin Lane, he's been fighting high-level competition, but he's looked like total shit fighting that competition. He won a 4-round fight by TKO in the 4th round on LFA, but that's only because his opponent was smoked from beating the piss out of him for 3 rounds. So, Austin Lane, in my opinion, is nowhere near UFC caliber. The only reason he's favored in this fight is because he's got more finishes. He's got 14 fights compared to Jacoby's. And I'm probably saying it wrong since he's from Brazil. It's probably Jacoby. But the only reason he's favored in this fight is because of the record of 11-3, where Jacoby is 6-0. But, apples to apples, watching video and striking on both, I'm going with Jacoby. I'm going with the underdog here, the plus 140. Austin Lane's been knocked out in all 3 of his losses. Typically when a fighter gets knocked out, like you watch Usman after that knockout, he may never be the same fighter. But when you're talking about a low-level heavyweight like Austin Lane, who's been knocked out 3 times and really should have been 4 or 5 times, he's gritty enough to survive, but he's not smart enough to not get knocked out. So for that reason and several more reasons, my play in that heavyweight fight is going to be the underdog coming up at plus 140 in Richard Jacoby. Before we get to the co-main, if that's what we want to call it, co-main and main event on tomorrow's Dana White Contender Series, check out my website, check out my Facebook, www.themmashark.com. Check me out on Facebook, The MMA Shark. Also, check out Fight Bananas. We've partnered up with Fight Bananas. Some great news-breaking articles on there. They were the first to announce that Jose Aldo retired yesterday. I even saw ESPN MMA shared it with the source of being Fight Bananas. So I'm proud to be part of the Fight Bananas page, and some phenomenal results there. We give away free plays on there. We're 4-0 with free plays on Fight Bananas. So definitely give a like to my YouTube channel here, as these videos have just started, and obviously the audience hasn't been built yet, but it's going to be in your best interest to follow this, as all we do is cash tickets. We lose, but we win a lot more than we lose, and at the end of the day, we're up. At the end of the month, we're up, with the exclusion of 1 month in the last year. So again, www.themmashark.com. Get access, subscribe. It gets you a full 30 days. It doesn't matter when in the month you're doing it. Use code BANANAS50 to save half off your first month. And like during the cards, you're communicating with me. You have a question, that's coming right to my phone and I'm replying. You don't have to log in. You don't have to wait for picks. They're just text it. As soon as I send them, they come out. You've got them. If you have any question, maybe your book doesn't have fight not to go to the distance, you can message me and say, Paul, what do you think about under 2.5 or over 2.5? And I'll give you my advice right there on the spot. I'm with all my subscribers throughout every MMA card. I make it a point to not miss any time during an MMA card. So www.themmashark.com plus 342 units year to date. Imagine what if you're a $25 bettor, you're up $10,000 this year. That can be life changing. And MMA, surveys even show the most exciting sport to bet on. They say tennis and MMA. I know betting on football is huge this time of the year, but that bet could take 4 hours. And, MMA, it's an instant rush, and boxing's a little bit more boring than MMA. But, I cap 2 exciting sports that anything can happen. There's been several fights that, we're down 2.5 rounds and, we come back and get that late knockout and, we're cashing 3-4 tickets a fight. So check it out, www.themmashark.com. So on to the co-main event tomorrow. I don't even know how this got sanctioned in Nevada. Having promoted in Pennsylvania, if I ever brought this to the table, I probably would have had a license revoked. But it's an even fight. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you got Raul Rosas Jr., 17 years old, 7-0. I'm sorry, he's 5-0. He's 5-0. At 17 years old, he's 5-0, making his debut on Dana White's Contender Series, and he's been nothing short of incredible. I mean, the fact that he's even on Contender Series as a 5-0, 17 years old. Just think of that. Glover Teixeira is 42. Imagine a 17-year-old who could be one punch away from getting into the UFC tomorrow night. All of his fights have come by stoppage. He's got 1 TKO. He does not have the best striking. He's very young. Obviously, he can't say he's been working on striking for 17 years. He's 17 years old. But his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu, I personally think he could take out bantamweights that are in the UFC right now. He gets you in a body triangle or takes your back. That fight is simply over. He's taken on Mando Gutierrez, who in his own rights is very good. Mexican fighters, man, they have been cashing tickets. They have been money. They train so good. They're so tough. But Mando is just not on the level of Raul. And it's crazy to say he's not on the level of someone who's 17. But Raul is like, he's 1 in 5 million. The jiu-jitsu this kid brings to the table is just the highest level. He's competed in some crazy grappling tournaments, beating grown men who are black belts and brown belts. He just gets it done. So at minus 145 tomorrow, the fact that he's 17, I think, maybe he gets a little, nervous and octagon jitters in the first round. Maybe he has a bad first round. Maybe he's plus 200 going to round 2. Bet him. Take him. I can't pass on it. I can't find a hole in this guy's game. There's no way Mando is just going to come out there and knock him out. And if Mando and him try to engage on the ground, you're going to have a submission by Rosas almost immediately. He is just that much fire. If he wasn't 17 years old, this line, I don't know, probably would be minus 600-700. So it's a close fight on paper just due to the age. But I hope Dana gives him a contract. If he gets a submission win, I think it's going to be hard to deny. But this kid's jiu-jitsu, you think of some of the 135ers, Tony Gravely, Marab, these guys that are just beasts on the ground, and, they're 27, 28 to 29 years old. This kid's nowhere near his peak. He turned pro at 13 years old. So 17 years old, he's been a pro for 4 years. The UFC is not going to match a 17-year-old up with someone that's going to hurt him. So this is a cheap line at minus 145. I don't like laying a lot of chalk. I'm probably going to release it as a 2-unit play, and I'm going to obviously send out some props to my subscribers. But Rosas is my play there. I've never once put out a play of a 17-year-old, but tomorrow's the night. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to cap a fight with a 17-year-old involved, but I'm on Rosas tomorrow. And then the main event tomorrow night, we have Italian fighter in Leon Alleyu, who is 10-1. He's a finisher. He's coming off a big knockout win on LFA, or I'm sorry, on Cage Warriors, where he knocked out James Webb. James was fighting a hometown fight, and he got clipped in the first round. Other than that, not really a whole ton of huge finishes. Average, subpar competition. But the scary thing about Leon tomorrow is he's got to fight Bruno Ferreira, and this dude is a monster. Everybody he has touched, he has finished. You know, looking at his fights, round 1, round 1, round 2, round 1, round 1, round 2, round 1, round 1. If the pattern continues, Bruno's getting a finish in the second round. But Leon's got a path to victory by catching him clean, just a puncher's chance shot. With Bruno Ferreira being minus 240 right now, very chalky, a little too chalky to go big on. Maybe consider putting Bruno in a parlay with Alleyu, or maybe you put Bruno in a parlay with Rosas Jr. You know, my system will get the numbers together and it'll get released to my subscribers. But there you go. I mean, I broke down, without going into too much detail, the full Dana White Contender Series Week 9 preview and prediction, with along the lines of some of my results from UFC Fight Night 60. It wasn't a great night. It wasn't a terrible night. But great nights happen. You know, there's nights we go for 45 units. Last December, we had a card where I went for 93 units, which is really unheard of to do in a night, but it was a 14-fight card, and we went 13-1 and hit a ton of props. So if you want to make a little bit of money betting on MMA, head over to the MMAshark.com, www.themmashark.com, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know, there's going to be some more free plays. Maybe you don't want to subscribe yet. Maybe you want to see what all the hype is about. You know, check out the reviews on my website. Check out the reviews on my Facebook. But maybe you're a little gun-shy about just signing up. I get it. I'm going to be here a couple times a week, and I'm going to toss out some free plays. I'll be on here again before the Bellator card on Friday. You know, you got Bellator overseas, 12:30 p.m. start on Friday. Queeley versus Henderson in the main event. I'll definitely be on here to chat about that and give a few free plays. And everything's leading up to, in my opinion, the biggest MMA month of the year, which is October. So check out some of these videos. If you're not ready to sign up, I totally get it. But maybe I'll make you a believer before October 1st. And that's it. Let's cash some tickets. So again, my official plays for tomorrow night. We have Echevera in Fight 1. We have Alleyu in Fight 2. We have Jacoby in Fight 3. We have Rosas Jr. in Fight 4. And we have Ferreira in Fight 5. And I was playing around with the numbers. If you parlay all of them, if you did a 5-leg parlay, which doesn't obviously have the greatest odds of hitting, you know, it's a shot in the dark, but if you take all my 5 leans and parlay them together, you're coming up almost at plus 1,800 odds. So, food for thought. I hope the fights stay as strong as they've been. The UFC is just on fire right now. I'm really looking forward to Bellator this Friday. We've got some Cage Warriors shows coming up. So, you know, UFC has the weekend off, but the MMA Shark never takes a weekend off. You know, there's always fists being thrown and fights to cap. So, again, check us out, www.themmashark.com, and I hope all of you have a great day.